Hi, Coach Annette. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. And I,
Uh,
oh, you have the tiny hands. I don't
I
have those.
I couldn't do a video chat without them, so I just thought I would bring them along.
I think they're doing a good job of keeping things light during this time, which kind of leads into our talk and mental health and how important it is right now and kind of facing this new reality that we have every day. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think, my schedule now is completely different now than it would normally be. And so, trying to figure out, how to be productive has been a challenge and just, everything is different and it's just been weird. So,
I know I'm definitely feeling lost without swimming every day. It's very, very unique. And I think that's why this program that we're going to talk about today, the Compete Well, is such a great program, especially for mental health rehearsal and just being positive and productive. So, without kind of beating around the bush as much as we are, we will go ahead and talk about this and go through kind of this Compete Well plan and how to prepare yourself and deal with the loss of your sport right now. So
yeah.
I'm turning it over to you. And
Sure. So, one of my good friends, her name is Ray, started this kind of mental health training for athletes of different kinds. And I was chatting with her on Instagram, and she was like, "Hey, we came out with this, free resource for athletes to use, as they're figuring out what it's like feeling lost without sport." And that's actually the name of what the worksheet is. And so immediately I was like, yes, let's get this out to the swimmers, just because it's so important during this time. We've never done anything like it, and just I think feeling lost is definitely words that apply.
yeah,
So
I totally agree with you. I couldn't, it's so different and it's such a unique situation that we're in. But I think going through this worksheet really, it helps put your mind at ease, but also it helps you refocus about the things that you can control and things that Dr. Kampoff talked about that you can control and you can do every day. So, do you want to read kind of the first bit about it and as we work
yeah.
our way through?
First of all, I would say that anyone on the team can do this worksheet. For anyone 10 and under, I would say, have your mom or dad help you out with it. But definitely, after, you finish with it, we encourage you to either talk to a teammate about it or talk about it, next time your group meets. But I think it's something that is even more beneficial when you do it and then you talk about it and consider it. But one of the first parts of the worksheet, it talks about how important it is to be aware of your emotions and cope with them effectively. And there's a spot where you can kind of choose what different emotions are. And I think it's important to recognize that emotions aren't good or bad. Um, if you feel an emotion, that is true for you, and it doesn't make it good or bad. But the power we have over them is what we choose to do with those emotions and how we kind of move forward. Um, I think it's important to notice that we're not saying like, oh, everyone needs to be happy during this time. That's not necessarily a true emotion, and you're just kind of burying um, the actual emotions, but it might take some time to kind of figure out what you are feeling. And that's kind of what this worksheet does, is it kind of helps you process and figure out, what am I actually feeling, and then what can we do as a result of that.
Yeah,
So
I really like in that first activity on the worksheet, it's what can't you do? And it has to do with what is no longer something that you can do and how does it make you feel? And I'm not gonna lie, I very much enjoyed the almost like emoji icons explaining each emotion. It helps me
yeah,
understand my phone a lot better, that's for sure. But I think that what it's doing is it's allowing you to express yourself and also understand how you're feeling because of this, which is
yeah,
really, really helpful for those going through this, which is everyone right now. So as we go through the sheet, and there's a little bit of a kind of a taking action note of it, and this is shared on the webpage. It is under the PDF version of under the video that this is being posted under, and there's a link for it, and you can go through and fill it out. But the first activity is, with the restrictions and changes caused by COVID-19, what can't you do? And then it has you place 2 emotions in there, write them down, and kind of what can't you do and why does it make you feel that way? Then the second activity is the acceptance of things that you cannot control and the way it's making you feel, but then also what can you do? What can you do right now? And the emotions of that. One thing for me is I'm spending a lot more time being physically active because I have more ability and free time to do that during my days and especially during the evenings when normally practice would be.
Yeah.
So that is a positive. That is a benefit of something to do right now. How about you, Annette?
Yeah, I really like how it transitions from, what we can't do, what we can't really control, to what you can control. And, in the box there, when I see space, I'm kind of like, okay, I have to like fill up this space. And, it kind of forces me to think of, not just one thing and fill in a blank, but like really kind of think through like all the things that I can still do. Like I can still see people, through these Zoom calls. I can still talk to people. I can, still interact, I can still work out, I'm healthy, all of these things that, you might think that we're so restricted now, but when we kind of flip that mindset as to thinking through all the things we can do and some things we might not have been able to do during this time. So
I really like how you kind of transitioned and segued into the next part of it, which is my adjustment to COVID-19 and identifying and creating things that you can do in all the aspects of your life. For the athletes, it would be school and then their sport, family and home life, as well as their own self-care. Those are kind of the subcategories, and it helps you categorize them with emotions as well. But for me, my work is very different than it's ever been. I would say the last 3 weeks, I have spent a significant amount more on my computer, but I've also spent a lot more time reading and learning how to do things. And now I can do a web video or a Facebook Live video or things like that, which are totally new. But they're things I think that when things get back to normal, I now have that tool that is something new that I've learned how to do and to be able to communicate, but I can apply that to coaching in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing to notice too is that if this is totally applicable for parents to do too, like parents' lives have been, turned upside down too, like their schedules have totally changed. Like, they have gone through, just as much as, the athletes and the coaches have. And so, yeah, I encourage parents to kind of do this as well. Yeah, this section of the worksheet, it, forces you to be creative and kind of go to that deeper thinking, but it's like shifting our mindset to, this is kind of what it's going to be like for, we don't know how long, but, being creative to think of ways that we can spend our day. So.
Yeah, I really like that if you can just change a couple of things in each aspect of your life. For example, home and family time, outdoors sports activities, things like that. I think refocusing your energy into doing something else, and that's why we've created that virtual workout challenge for the older people or older kids, the Couch to 5K, the weekly workout for the 12 and unders, the core routines, changing our focus of where we would normally expend all of our energy for you and I coaching, but for the athletes swimming and competing and stuff like that. It's just rechanneling that energy into doing other activities and being physically active and gaining that benefit of being a multi-faceted person that can do all sorts of different sports and athletic activities, which is great. As well as I'm sure e-learning and e-distance learning is super challenging as going through. I'm very fortunate I never had to do it, but it's what we're working with as we deal with it. And I think that all leads into what is the next segment on the on this worksheet, which is your daily routine. And I'm going to let Annette kind of talk about that and how it works.
Yeah, so the next sheet on in the worksheet talks about my daily routine. And I think for the swimmers out there, one of the biggest changes that we've, you guys have experienced is the fact that you're not going to practice every day, and that completely takes out a huge chunk of your day. You have to get ready to go to swimming, you go to swimming, then you shower and you change, and then you have to eat. And that is just a huge part of your day. I know when I was doing sports, it forced me to just be really particular about when I would get things done. And then oftentimes, like when I don't have that, it's like I have more time, but yet I get less done if I don't have any structure. And so to help resist negative effects, the worksheet walks you through what a new routine can look like. I know for me, this is the first week that I've kind of jumped into the virtual challenge, and I love that. I figured out like, okay, how many, like squats and crunches, and lunges do I need to do to get the maximum? And then, figure out, you know, how many per day that would be. And, I was getting some work done, and I, would, work for a little bit and stop and do a round of exercises and then hop back in. And so I definitely think that, like actually writing out a routine can be super helpful. What do you think, Tom?
I totally agree. I mean, my new daily routine is so unique compared to what it is. The first thing I do is I actually sleep in till almost 6 o'clock every morning, which is a huge difference from my normal life
Yeah.
to what life is with COVID. So I am actually getting a lot more sleep, which is good. It's a healthy thing. But then I spend every morning with the coaching staff as we do our coaching meetings, and that's really kind of the kickstart of my day is when we have our coaches meeting, and then it's like boom, I'm set to do this. Then I structure my day based off of that. I make sure that I get up, I take the dog for a walk, I do our coaches meeting, and then I start going through all of the processes and orientations of what I need to do for the meet or for my day itself and to be productive, whether it's the virtual workout challenge, posting stuff to the website, recording a video with Annette, but it's scheduling and doing that as well as taking breaks. I really like what you were talking about yesterday, where you were doing almost like these circuits where you would do workout, do something else for a few minutes, and then go right back into that cycle. And you would do it 5 reps, and by that you're almost done with your whole day, and you've completed so much. And it's not only is it working out, it's getting your job done, but it's also being social and being interactive on Zoom, on Hangouts, and these other digital platforms, which is so beneficial in terms of keeping yourself from maybe it's just sitting on playing video games or watching 37 episodes of Friends in a day or something like that. It actually creates a routine for you to do, which helps us become structured people and productive in our day. I just remember on Avery's nutrition talk, she basically structured your eating around your swimming schedule and your competing schedule and how much everything interacts with one another. And I think getting into this routine is really a good positive change for a lot of us, especially with the open-endedness of our schedule currently.
Yeah, definitely. And once we, kind of have worked out that routine, it leads us into the next part of the worksheet, which is setting goals. And I really like how there's kind of a phrase and then you fill out, there's some space there, and it starts off with, I want to, ... and so I will. And so like the first one is, I want to accept my reality and uncomfortable emotions, so I will. And then you can write out a goal on how you can combat that. And I really like that format. And there's a couple different I want, so I will statements.
I think that the I wants and I wills are one of the better ways that we can set goals, but
Yeah.
actually follow through to accomplish them. And it's so much related to swimming, in my opinion, and what we do all the time is I want to go this time in an event, so I will
Yeah.
suffer hours of practice upon hours of practice.
Yeah.
There's so many of these things that we do, but maybe we don't apply it to everything else in our lives, which not is a bad thing, but it's a tool that now we have that we can work with and learn to be better. And I really, really like that part of it. I want, I will, I can, and I am are the kind of defining terms of how we do those things. I want to do this, so I will do this. I can do this, so therefore I am accomplishing my goal. Is kind of the root finale of this worksheet, but how beneficial it is. And I know after you sent this to me, Annette, and then I put this into my own day, and it is amazing how much more productive I am, how much happier I am in
Yeah.
terms of my day, and having that structure and that a semblance of a schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like how it forces you to write the goal in the positive sense. It's like, I will do this instead of I'm not going to do this. It's just kind of framing it differently. So you're always focusing on what you are going to do, what you will do is more better in terms of actually achieving your goal. So
I had heard that a long time ago. One of my college coaches said to me, how many of you have a goal? It was right after New Year's, and everyone raised their hand, and uh, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I have a goal," or New Year's resolution, or whatever it
yeah,
was at the time. And then it was, well, how many have a plan to do that? And everybody raised their, maybe half the hands dropped or whatever. And then the final thing was, he said, how many people have written that plan down and will hold yourself to it? And nobody had kept their hand up. And that's a big part of it, is when you write it down, it becomes so much more real. And I think that that's what this worksheet really does to help guide us through that. So that's about all I have on it. Annette, what else do you have?
yeah, I just think this time that we have now, if we can utilize it to become mentally stronger, if we can utilize it to, work on goal setting and, outside of the pool, I just think that we are just going to be so much stronger as a team when we come back. We are just going to be unstoppable. And so I encourage you guys to take the time to actually fill this out and then keep it in a spot where you're reminded. Talk to your friends about it, encourage one another to do this. Any time that you spend on mental health and is going to be so beneficial, and we just care about you guys. And so this is a tool that I think will be super helpful for you guys. And we are always here to help you if you guys have a questions, but also include your parents in this conversation. They might not have gone through, really stop to think what they're feeling through all of this. And just, if you can help your parents out, I think that's awesome. So
Yeah, I agree. And kind of a final little note here is, if we can all be stronger and better and more mentally sharp as we're going through this, or finding a way to cope and deal with this, I think this worksheet is a great way to do it. And I think it's beneficial for everyone. Like you said, parents, maybe even grandparents, a spouse that's working and now has to have the kids at home, e-learning, all of those things. I think it's just so beneficial. So, Annette, I wanted to say thank you very much for sending this to me and bringing it to your attention. I'm really happy to present it and get it out to the team. So thank you.
awesome. Thanks. It was fun chatting. So,
Have a good day.
all right, you too. Bye-bye.